What's up, everybody? Welcome to Podcast Now. I'm Alex, and I'm once again joined by Christy. We're going to talk about everything Game of Thrones Season 8 did wrong. So we're going to kind of go over, have this be a therapy session for anybody that wants to voice their opinions and hear opinions, really. And we're going to be talking about all the things that just really made us upset this season. Now, this is no definitive list. We're just going to kind of go on a rant, Christy and I, talking about what we didn't like. And, of course, we want to hear from you guys in the comments below what you guys didn't like. And if you guys have been following our Game of Thrones content over the last several weeks, we are not done. We're going to have a couple Game of Thrones videos this week talking about really the future. We're going to be talking a little bit about Star Wars and talking about what we saw basically from Season 8 of Game of Thrones, talking about the Game of Thrones really as a whole. And we're, of course, going to be covering prequel stuff, and we're going to be continuing that kind of stuff on the channel. So we definitely want to have you guys stick around, anybody that has followed us for our Game of Thrones content. So I think, personally for me, I'll go first. I think when it comes to this season, it's obviously the season of missed opportunities. It's the season of bad writing, and it's the season of just dropping character developments along the seaside. This season, I think, really going into it, I was very, very, very excited. I got into the show very late. I had only just recently caught up with Game of Thrones around a month before this season came out, so I was pumped. I was excited for what this was going to be. I just feel like there wasn't enough time. I felt like so many things in this season were rushed, and I think that seems to be the main theme. The whole Night King thing, I think, needed to take a larger stage in this entire season. He was the central villain. He was the person, and the whole winter is coming and all of that stuff. That is what Game of Thrones has been built on for so many years. And obviously the signature, moments of season 7 really setting up the whole, we want to take Cersei out, right? Daenerys wants to be queen, all that stuff, but we have to worry about the central threat, the biggest threat first, which is the Night King. And we had an entire episode talking about the Battle of Winterfell. I'm not going to go over all those mistakes, but I mean, episode 3 in a nutshell was just a pure disaster. A really nice looking episode in terms of the camera shots, and so was episode 6, but just in terms of writing, in terms of how they handled it, I think one of the main things they did wrong is they needed to have the Night King be the villain longer. I mean, you could have had him stretch it out, you could have had the fight stretch out, you could have had anything but besides what they did. And I think one of the main mistakes too is if you watch the season now that we're actually fully done, episodes 1 and 2, which at the time I thought were pretty solid, especially episode 2, really loses a lot of what made it special in the moment because nothing really became of it. It was the kind of calm before the storm, before the huge fight, and nothing happened in that fight. Very, very few people died. That was another major thing wrong with the season is nobody really died. I mean, if you're a Daenerys fan, which I think a lot of people were, that's the only person. If you can really, there was a couple people that died throughout the episodes, but when it really comes down to it, nobody of massive importance besides Daenerys actually died. I feel like a lot of people, myself included, were expecting and readying ourselves for especially the Night King battle to lose several major characters, some really big characters, and instead we really didn't. We lost no major character, I'd say, in that fight. We lost Jorah, but is he a main character? It's debatable. And then, we lost Cersei and Jaime, and that was something, I guess, but even the way they went out was pretty pathetic as well. Just a lot of character mishandlings. Jaime as well, all this character development, all the things he's gone through, and all the things we've seen, kind of him switching to the good guy side, right? Fighting for the sake of humanity. And then at the end, kind of just saying, well, you know what? I've always been bad. Cersei's always been bad. I'm going to go with her. Is that something his character would do? Maybe. But at the same time, I felt like he was better than that. Just a lot of things like that. Daenerys obviously slipping into madness. We've talked a lot about that in a lot of our videos. It's okay that she did it. I am not mad that she did it. I'm not mad that she died. I'm not mad that Jon killed her. We actually predicted Jon would kill her before the season started. The problem is how they handled it. The problem is what they did with her and how short of a time it made the jump that all of a sudden she's just this insane person saying these things that like a pure evil person would say and do. And I feel like it was completely unlike her character. And again, people are going to say, well, they hinted at it the whole time. They really didn't. They really didn't hint at things like that. They could have drawn it out longer. And it was that way, like I said, with basically everybody. Jaime, Cersei was reduced to just standing out looking at a castle for the whole season. There's just a lot of things, and again, even the fights, cool looking fights, the Battle of Winterfell, but overall, go watch that video, so many things wrong. The 5th episode, I mean, yeah, it's cool to watch things burn and all the nice shots of King's Landing being destroyed, but was it necessary? Not really. And And episode 6, we just did a review on last night. We did a live stream. We talked about basically everything wrong with that episode, so you guys can watch that. Obviously, a lot of bad things or just misfires happened in that episode as well. So, how would they have done it differently? Maybe we can make a video talking about how we would do it differently or what they should have done it differently. But in terms of what we actually got, it's okay to criticize. It's okay to talk about all the mistakes they made. And I think they made several major mistakes that, you could argue we've been leading up to this point, obviously, for 7 seasons. We get here in season 8, and they dropped the ball big time. And honestly, I think they ruined a lot of the character development that they had built. They ruined a lot of the world building, a lot of the major plot points that they had been building up to. They kind of just dropped all of them, and I feel like that hurts the entire show as a whole. And why shouldn't it? This is the final season. This is how you end it. It's going to impact the state of the show in general, and I think they did a pretty terrible job.
I agree with a lot of the points that you made, and that season 8 was just, season 7 and 8 both honestly were just kind of just where it all started going downhill from there. There was a lot of things I really didn't like. I think that this entire season 7, even with this one, both have felt just incredibly rushed through all of it, every single thing. It was one thing after another. Suddenly they're able to transport themselves like that anywhere all across, the entire 7 kingdoms. It's ridiculous. Just the entire episode is not this episode, the entire season was very rushed, I feel like. And there was just an insane amount of plot armor. The Battle of Winterfell alone had just the major amount of plot armor. Suddenly, major characters could survive any tiny thing, even though they were legitimately surrounded by thousands of whites, but none of them, barely got anything wrong with them. None of them died the way Jorah died, though they probably all should have, being surrounded the way they were. Also, on top of that, I'm going to say again, the betrayal they did to Ghost, they forgot to include him. They didn't want to admit that they forgot to include him, but you could tell they forgot because they pushed him off to the side and then they kind of added it in. The writers alone have screwed up one too many times with constantly using we forgot as an excuse. They forgot how to say Missandei's name, Cersei's name. They forgot King's Landing was surrounded by water. They forgot, the Scorpions were overpowered in one episode to shoot Rhaegal down, but then the next episode, suddenly it took them way too long to turn around and catch Dany on Drogon, even though those exact same Scorpions were used on a ship that moves consistently in an ocean and shot a dragon down, but somehow couldn't shoot Drogon, around an entire city when they had literally hundreds of, well, not hundreds, but they had a good amount of those Scorpions around the walls. So there was that. And then the, underwhelming Night King plotline in general. We didn't get to learn anything about him. We didn't get to learn his reasoning, anything behind him. He didn't get to say a word. He just died. And I feel like there was tons of symbolism going into it. That too, it died with symbolism. A lot of things were foreshadowed, or even we thought they were foreshadowed. There was a lot of hint that Daenerys could be pregnant, with constantly saying that she could never have kids, and Jon telling her, who told you that? She's lying, and stuff like that. That was all thrown in the trash too. And a lot of, the drawings that the Children of the Forest would make of the Night King, saying how long he's been surviving, things like that have been brought up through seasons and seasons of Game of Thrones, just to basically mean nothing in the end. And then the Night King just dying like that. Literally within a split second he died. And I don't care that Arya was the one that did it. I think it was fine that it was Arya. I liked that moment where she stabbed him. It was fantastic. How it was done, though, I didn't like. I didn't like that he was surrounded by his whites and his White Walkers. He was completely had that moment, and there was no battle. It was just, she flew in from the sky. I assume Bran dropped her off with the ravens, and she stabbed him, and that was that. So I think that was just a ridiculous moment. Also, I feel like Sam's story kind of died at the end too. I think Sam had one of the greatest character arcs, but then, a lot of the character arcs even too, season 8 has destroyed tons of them. Leaving Brienne, crying in a robe, and Jaime going back to Cersei, and Tyrion making bad decision after bad decision, and no good jokes anymore, because even his jokes towards Varys was just suddenly, oh, you're a eunuch. That's pretty much it. And there's no more witty Tyrion. And but Sam, overall, I feel like, he went back to be a maester, which is amazing because that's what he wanted to do. But he wanted to be one of the Citadel. And instead he's going to serve Bran. And that ending was just underwhelming and ridiculous, and Bran is the king that we all knew was going to happen but really was hoping it was a lie and didn't want to admit to ourselves, and now we all get to take a shot and admit it to ourselves. Bran gets to sit at the head, and I think it's ridiculous. I hate how the only thing that this season 8 did good was kept Sansa to her story. She is still a backstabbing B-word. That's pretty much it. Sansa still, even against her own brother who became king, turned around and was like, no, the North will never bend the knee. But they did. They bent the knee to Sansa. And then Bran took the throne, who is a Stark, and I'm sure they would have served him being a Stark and from the North, but she didn't even want to wait for that. She was like, nah, we want to be North on our own, and she just didn't want to admit that she wants to be queen. She wants the power, and I think it's building her up to kind of be Cersei. And you know, that's one of the things it did great, was that it left Sansa's story intact. Everyone else, though, it just kind of trailed off, and there was a lot of mistakes, I think, but cinematography wise, this season was beautiful, and the music was just amazing. Episode 2 alone with the music was just beautiful, with Podrick's song, and the somber music leading up to Podrick's song was amazing, and I loved that entire moment. I loved all of the music throughout every episode. Even in the last episode, I really loved the music, how it was kind of just mellow, and then there were moments where it was epic. I loved that each character kind of has their own house music too, and they played each of them. If you would kind of notice, they would play somewhat through all of them. Even at the ending of the episode 5, when Jaime and Cersei died, they played Cersei's song, or House Lannister's song. I'm not sure which one it is, but they played that music at the end. And I loved that, you know, all the music has been amazing through all of the seasons. All the shots have been amazing. I loved that shot with Daenerys and Drogon at the end, where he was her wings. And so that's basically all I loved about it. The shooting was beautiful. The acting was amazing. I want to say the actors, all of them did just fantastic. I didn't think acting was terrible at all. The season was terrible. I didn't like how the character arcs went and the writing and everything like that, but the acting was amazing. I think all of the actors just did spot on with all of their work. I love the music and everything behind it, but this season was just a rushed pile of nothing.
And if you guys want to go back and watch any of the past seasons, any of the past episodes of Game of Thrones, we have a link in the description below. It's a Fandango Now affiliate link. If you click that, if you buy or rent something through that, it helps us out on the channel. But you can go back and you can watch any of the old Game of Thrones episodes. They're all there for you. You can rent, buy them. You can link your Fandango points if you get the VIP points when you go see a movie. If you guys saw Avengers Endgame, you can earn points there. And you can use them, you can redeem them on Fandango Now when you rent or buy movies or TV shows. So it's a nice little thing you can do with linking them. If you guys are interested in that, definitely check out, like I said, that code in the description box below. So let us know in the comments below what you guys thought Season 8 did wrong. Did you think it did anything right? Let us know. Make sure you guys subscribe to our YouTube channel, Podcast Now, and hit that bell icon so you guys know when these videos go up. And again, we have a few more Game of Thrones videos going up over the next couple days, and we aren't done even past that. We will, of course, be covering the prequel stuff and anything Game of Thrones related, major news stories on the channel. So we're not done with Game of Thrones. We really hope you guys stick around with us, even with Game of Thrones being done, because we have had a ton of fun talking to you guys and making these videos for you guys. So we really hope you guys will stick around. So thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you on the next video.